I want to share with you what I read in Zechariah. This is about the end days, and this is the end days. So let me read this to you. This is Zechariah 14. Behold, the day of the Lord is coming, and your spoil will be divided in your midst. For I will gather all the nations to battle against Jerusalem. The city shall be taken, the houses rivaled, and the woman ravished. Half of the city shall go into captivity. But the remnant of the people shall not be cut off from the city. So God's people will be a part of Jerusalem, and the rest of the people will not. Then the Lord will go forth and fight against those nations, as he fights in the day of battle, and in the day his feet will stand on the Mount of Olives, which faces Jerusalem on the east, and the Mount of Olives shall be split in two, from east to west, making a very large valley. Half of the mountain shall move toward the north, and half of it toward the south. Then you shall flee through my mountain valley, for the mountain valley shall reach to Azal. Yes, you shall flee, as you flee from the earthquake in the days of Uzziah, king of Judah. Thus the Lord my God will come, and all the saints with you. It shall come to pass in that day that there will be no light. The lights will diminish. So what he's saying is that he's coming, and their people will flee from him. All the unbelievers are going to run for their lives like they're running from an earthquake. And the lights will go dim and diminish. It shall be one day which is known to the Lord, neither day or night, but at evening time it shall happen, that it will be light. And in that day it shall be that living waters shall flow from Jerusalem, half of them toward the eastern sea, and half of them toward the western sea. In both summer and winter it shall occur. And the summer shall be king over, and the Lord shall be king over the earth. In that day it shall be, the Lord is one, and his name one. All the land shall be turned into a plain from Jeba to Rimmon, south of Jerusalem. Jerusalem shall be raised up and inhabited in her place. From Benjamin's gate to the place of the first gate and the corner gate, and from the tower of Hanel to the king's winepresses. The people shall dwell in it, and no longer shall there be utter destruction, but Jerusalem shall be safely inhabited. So all God's people will be safe in Jerusalem. And this shall be the plague of which the Lord will strike all the people who fought against Jerusalem. So all the unbelievers who fought against Jerusalem, against Jesus' people, this is what's going to happen, and this is so scary. Their flesh shall dissolve while they stand on their feet. Their eyes shall dissolve in their sockets, and their tongues shall dissolve in their mouths. It shall come to pass in that day that a great panic from the Lord will be among them. Everyone will seize the hand of his neighbor and raise his hand against his neighbor's hand. Judah also will fight at Jerusalem, and the wealth of all surrounding nations shall be gathered together, gold, silver, and apparel in great abundance. So what he's saying, it sounds to me like a nuclear fallout, is what it kind of sounds like. But what he's saying is all the people will turn against each other in this time. The ones who survive will turn against each other. Such also shall be the plague on the horse and the mule, on the camel and the donkey, and all the cattle that will be in this camp. So shall this plague be. But it sounds like a nuclear fallout. But God is saying it's a plague that will take upon the non-believers among their stock, their livestock, and among the people. It's going to be a plague that certainly sounds like a nuclear fallout, right? Well, I don't know what kind of plague that is, but it sounds horrible. And it shall come to pass that everyone who is left of the nations which come against Jerusalem shall go up from year to year to worship the king. So even the fact that they're non-believers, after this plague hits, they're still going to worship God, because they are going to come once a year to worship God at the temple. So I'm going to read this again. And it shall come to pass that everyone who is left of all the nations which come against Jerusalem shall go up from year to year and worship the King, the Lord of hosts, and to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. And it shall be that whichever of the families of the earth do not come up to Jerusalem to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, on them there will be no rain. So the Lord will stop their rain if they don't come and worship. Even if just one person doesn't come and worship, he will stop their rain. If the family of Egypt will not come up and enter in, they shall have no rain. They shall receive the plague with which their Lord strikes the nations who do not come up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. So each time they do not come up and worship God during this time, they will get a plague. This shall be the punishment of Egypt and the punishment of all the nations that do not come up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. In that day, holiness to the Lord shall be engraved on the bells of the horses. The pots in the Lord's house shall be like bowls before the altar. Yes, every pot in Jerusalem and Judah shall be holiness to the Lord of hosts. Everyone who sacrifices shall come and take them and cook in them. In that day there shall no longer be a Canaanite in the house of the Lord of hosts. So this is describing what is going to be at the very end of days. Nothing like we've actually pictured, right? I don't know what kind of plague would do that, but it sounds horrible. And even if they're not believers, they're going to be believers before it's all said and done, and it'll be too late to accept Jesus into their heart. They're going to be separated from God's people who took the Lord into their heart right away. They're going to be separated. Whether now they're a believer or not, they're going to be separated from God's people because they didn't believe beforehand. It took this to happen before they believed. This is not the way that I pictured it when I read Revelations, right? And I'm still having a hard time wrapping my head around some of this. But what I would suggest you do is go and read Zechariah for yourself. The book of Zechariah. It is so detailed about things, it'll blow your mind. And it coincides with what Revelations is saying, but in a different way. And I don't know. I don't know about you, but I want to be on God's side. I'm so grateful that I accepted Jesus in my heart already, because, I mean, if this is what's to come, this is going to be horrific. And if you don't accept Jesus into your heart ahead of time, then you're going to be separated from his people. You're going to be separated and basically locked out of the gates. And your lifestyle is going to be very hard from there on out. You're still going to worship God. You ain't going to have a choice. Whether you don't like it or whether you like it or not, you're still going to worship God. Because if you don't, you get more plagues. And your life is going to be hard because you didn't choose God now. And that's the way I understood it. And, you know, I'm reading this first time. So I got to do some study and make sure I'm correct on this. But that's I just read it to you. Read it yourself. Go and read the whole book of Zechariah, because it's very, very informative about what's to come. Don't wait till the last minute to accept Jesus into your heart. Accept him now. Hallelujah. Accept him now. It'll be worth it. I'm telling you, it'll be worth it. Hallelujah. And I hope this blesses you. Have a good day.